Hello and welcome to the NICU Space podcast by Miracle Moon. I'm Dr. Frankie Harrison, a clinical psychologist and NICU parent myself. Through my work as a psychologist and through my own experience of having a baby in neonatal care, I know that the NICU journey can leave a huge emotional impact on parents and families. This podcast is a space where we talk honestly about that experience. We will be exploring the emotional impact of neonatal care, the anxiety, the guilt, the grief, the questions about bonding and identity, the parts of the experience that so many parents carry long after leaving the hospital. Across the series, I'll be speaking with other NICU parents at different stages of their journey, as well as professionals working in the field. We want you to feel seen, understood, and less alone in what you've been through. So whether you are currently sitting beside an incubator, recently home from NICU, years down the line still making sense of it all, or someone supporting a NICU family, you are very welcome here. What you have been through matters, and you do not have to carry it on your own. Before we begin, just a quick note that this podcast is for information and support, but it is not a substitute for individual medical or psychological care. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to the NICU Space podcast. So today we're doing a little bit of a dive into what EMDR is. So eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is an absolute mouthful. But what I wanted to do today was bring on someone who specializes in talking about EMDR. So Carly Costello is a licensed therapist. She's an EMDR certified therapist, and she's an approved consultant based in West Virginia in the US. She's the owner of the Counseling Nook, which is a group therapy practice which specializes in trauma-informed care, where all of the clinicians are trained in EMDR therapy. She's got a consulting business called EMDR with Carly, and she provides consultation, mentorship, training for EMDR therapists. But the reason why I wanted to have her on today is because I feel like she's got a really accessible way of talking about EMDR. So it's not jargon-filled. It's really clear. She's on Instagram and she does reels where she talks about EMDR, what it means, and really helps people to understand what it's about. So I am also an EMDR therapist myself, and it is one of the main ways that I work with people in therapy. And there are often questions that we get around things like, I'm worried that if I open this box, then it's going to spill over and I don't want to open Pandora's box, or people worry about doing it wrong, or there's misconceptions about it, or myths about doing EMDR. Like, for example, we can't do EMDR when we're pregnant, or what actually is it? You know, people talk about EMDR, but what is it? Who is it for? How does it work? So that's what we're breaking down today, talking a little bit about each of those things. And I think it's a really important conversation because so many people can benefit from EMDR. It's a type of trauma processing therapy. And I guess the way that I like to think of it is it just helps stuff that feels stuck get unstuck. So whether that is emotions that feel like they're too big and they keep repeating, or whether it is negative beliefs about things like it's my fault, or I'm not safe, or my kid's not safe, for example, or maybe it's that you're flashing back to memories and that keeps repeating itself, or there's this feeling of guilt or whatever it is, right? It's like EMDR is a processing type of therapy that allows you to be able to move through it so that it now doesn't feel so distressing, so activating, so spiky, like when you're thinking about it, right? So we're going to talk today about all of those things, give you a little bit of an explanation into it, but please let us know if you've got any questions and reach out if we can support you in any way. It doesn't have to be us. We can find you a therapist that works for you in whatever way that looks like, but please reach out. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you've got any questions, and know that support is out there. It doesn't have to always feel like this. So let's dive into this episode with Carly. Carly, lovely to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. We were just having a little bit of a chat, and I really wanted to get you on today because the information that you provide on social media about what EMDR is, I think is really accessible for people to be able to understand EMDR, maybe some bits where they feel a little bit stuck about it, or kind of debunking some of the myths around it, all of those kind of things. I really wanted to talk to someone who was able to do that in a really accessible way. So I'm really happy that you're here to be able to do that with us.
Yes, good. I love doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and therapy in general has come a long way, like more acceptable here, but still
Mm.
people are apprehensive. So I
Oh,
always
really?
say, then you're going to explain to them EMDR therapy and follow my hand with your eyes. And they're going to be like, that
Yeah.
is crazy.
I completely that. I think when you I'm really aware of it. Like when I'm in the therapy room and I start explaining EMDR, I'm like, this does sound a little bit crazy, but when we start doing it,
Yeah.
like it will make more sense. But it does
Yeah.
think
I'm like, I know this is like hokey pokey, but try to just trust me and let's go with that.
absolutely, yeah. And it's not hokey pokey, it's not woo, is it? It's like evidence-based stuff, but
Yes.
it just the way you what you have to do is just so different to, I guess, traditional talking therapy. So it just feels different.
Yeah. But you're right. It is evidence based for
Hmm.
trauma. And as we know now, trauma, it means much more than like you're in the military or you had a
Yeah.
massive car wreck. It's a lot more than these like big T traumas that we
Mm,
talked about. I
yes.
think one of the hard things about explaining EMDR is yes, it is evidence based, but sometimes as the therapist, it can feel hard to explain it further, like why it works, because
Uh-huh.
there are some sort of different theories about like why the bilateral stimulation or why the
Yeah.
eye movements work.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I know you're an EMDR therapist, so I'm curious. I wonder how, if you explain the science behind it, but this is how I explain it, sort of like
Let's
the
go for it. Yeah.
science behind why it works. One of the things that I say is when we are in REM sleep, your eyes are actually going back and forth. And it's like your brain is, it's like processing the day. And a lot of stuff just gets processed out fully. You lost your cool and you yelled at your toddler, but that gets processed. You're okay with it. You stub your toe and you said a bad word in front of your kid. That gets processed out. But other things that are just a little more overwhelming or too overwhelming get stuck. So then when we're in REM sleep, it's some things get stuck and they're not fully processed.
Yeah.
But EMDR therapy with the different phases and how it's structured, and
Mhm.
with adding the eye movements or some sort of back and forth bilateral stimulation, it's like we're, I don't know, hijacking or jump starting, like how you jump start a
Yeah.
car. It's like we're implementing that bilateral stimulation to just try to help the brain do what it's naturally meant to do.
Yeah, completely. I always use the REM sleep part of the
Yeah.
fact that we naturally do that kind of bilateral stimulation, even stuff like go walk it off. Like
Oh,
we that kind of stuff. We just naturally do that bilateral stimulation as a way of processing and maybe aren't consciously aware of it that we're
oh
doing
yeah.
that,
Now
you
with
know?
my husband, I'm like, if we have anything tough to talk about, we must be on a walk. It's like our new rule. It just
That's a
goes
good rule.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Or like in a car. Like I just feel like, and I always find that whenever I am in a car, my brain just starts firing with loads of like ideas and like all of that. And I think that that's part of the fact that I'm doing the processing piece at the same time, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you said like before explaining it. So you like who is EMDR for? Because, like you said, it isn't just for those kind of big trauma events. There's an evidence base of it working for loads of different things. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by small T trauma, big T trauma, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So, like small T trauma would be things you might necessarily not necessarily think of as trauma, but
Mm.
let's say I let's just say when I was younger, if I ever got in trouble or got yelled at, I would be sent to my room alone,
Mm. Mm.
and then it would never be talked about again.
Mm.
But my nervous system experienced that being alone. My brain told me that it was my fault and I'm bad during
Mm.
those times. And then it was never talked about again. So that that negative belief was never corrected. So
Yeah.
that is a little T trauma, sort of like it's like emotional neglect, or
Yeah.
a need wasn't met, or I was
Mm.
alone with this fear and shame.
Mm.
So a lot, I mean, that's like the most common thing that I'm really working with.
Yeah.
You
Completely.
know, someone might come into therapy and they recently are going through a bad breakup. And so that's what they think they're coming into therapy for. And then we really get to
Mm.
diving deeper, and it's connected. It goes all back. It goes back to these kind of things.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that. So, like, someone might think that well, they the birth trauma might bring them in, the neonatal experience
Uh-huh.
might bring them in, but
Yes.
then it might be that as you're processing some stuff from the past, feels like it starts coming up,
Yeah.
or you're doing the processing on the neonatal care and the birth trauma, and it's not quite getting there. It's not the distress level isn't quite coming down. So it might be that we go to the past,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about how it's connected?
So, like, for example, let's say you experience birth trauma and we talk about like the worst part of it
Hmm.
and the fear and feeling like you didn't have a voice or the medical provider didn't listen to you. I should have known better. All these like thoughts and negative beliefs are coming up that we're talking about. But let's just
Mm.
say the main negative belief that we identify is like, I'm helpless. And it's just this helpless feeling in this experience. And so we try to process the actual birth from start to finish,
Mm.
but there's still stuck points. So then we
Mm.
might really talk about that I'm helpless belief. And we might try to float back to other times that you had this feeling of being helpless and I'm helpless. And we're going
Mhm.
to want to float back to the earliest time you can ever remember feeling like I'm helpless.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can go to the smallest thing.
Mhm.
It could go not even a super traumatic thing. It could go to like, I don't know. My best friend was crying because they didn't get picked for the soccer team and I did. And
Yeah.
I felt helpless, that she was crying and I couldn't make it better. And we
Yeah.
were six.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
could it could even be smaller than that, like not so emotional, but the idea is that we follow this thread. I imagine it's like a web,
Mm.
but this I'm helpless feeling, and we follow that along
Mhm.
to the earliest time. And then with EMDR, the idea
Yeah.
is that sometimes if we go back and we target that time that you were six and your best friend didn't make the soccer team and you felt helpless, and if we go back to that memory and we actually fully process it, you might be surprised that then later memories might not be as triggering.
Yeah. It has like a knock-on effect in that
Yes.
way too, right? And I
Yeah.
guess that's what I talk to parents a lot about with neonatal care. You can start listing out all of the things that feel traumatic about it, and it can feel like the list is really long because there are multiple events that felt really, really difficult in neonatal care, before it, after it, all of that stuff. And I always say that bit of going, we probably won't get through all of these. We won't need to, because a lot of these beliefs will probably have a theme to it. It'll have a knock-on
Right.
effect on all of these things. We don't have to go through every single memory. If there's like that, I'm helpless or it's my fault, it's working with that theme and
Yeah.
kind of figuring out where we need to go with that. And it has a knock-on effect on all
Yeah.
of them, right?
Yeah. I I think the cool thing with EMDR is there is different ways to do it. Yes, we
Mm,
have this script and there's 8 phases, but there's different ways to go about it. So
mm,
with someone who's experienced birth trauma or NICU experience, we can look at it, the event. You let me know, what do you think is the start to finish of this event? It might be from the moment I found out I was pregnant until we finally took the baby home, or
mm.
they can come up with the start and finish, and then we could run through it like a movie essentially,
Well,
and we'll help to process each, I call them hot spots
yeah,
that
yeah.
we come across, you know?
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we can do it like that. We can trace the negative belief back. We could talk about an anxiety feeling that you're having presently. We could talk about the future fears.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many different ways.
There's so many different ways that we
Yeah,
can use EMDR, and we can start with different things that could help.
completely. And what guides you to choosing the different ways to be able to what to target, for instance, like which path to use?
I mean, what guides me is just the client and the client's story, and being attuned to them and their body, their nervous system. And just
Yeah.
I'm just looking and listening for what is most activating for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's what I'm gonna wanna start with.
completely. And I just find that people's brains and nervous systems take them where they need to go
Yeah,
anyway, right? So it might be
right.
that you have a plan of where you want to go and then it doesn't end up going that way. It's just that it's trusting that your brain and nervous system will take you where you need to go. And I
Yes.
think it can look so different, right? Those sessions that I can be sitting in one session with someone and it's all body based and that's what they're doing. And then somewhere else where they feel like they want to go through what happened and then this happened. And it's so different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about, so I feel like this statement of like, where do you feel that in your body has been like around on social media and it has been taking the piss out of it, all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Talk to me a little bit about why it's important for us to be tuning in to your body, especially during EMDR.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the body keeps the score.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, you might not remember something, but the body does. Now, this is like a different kind of birth trauma, but I've done a lot of EMDR on like pre-verbal trauma, meaning like our own birth story.
Right.
Like, what was, like, how did you come into this world? And
Okay.
our bodies can even hold like pre-verbal trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason it's important is because of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And uh, the cool thing with EMDR too is that you don't have to have a, what's it called, explicit memory.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to have an actual clear image or actual memory for it to work. It could just be like a gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. And I guess that's where maybe more of the somatic body based stuff comes in. I'm
Yeah.
aware that there will be a lot of parents who will have heard you say that part of the birth experience. And
Oh,
like I think it's a really important point, but it's also a tricky point. So I want to address it. So there is often this kind of guilt that is there
mm,
in the kind of NICU, in the birth trauma space of being like, I've caused this. And then I think sometimes it can feel quite reassuring to have that thought of, well, they won't remember it. Right. But to hear, and I think it's important to hear that then there is an element for maybe for some children that there is that kind of somatic element, that it won't be that explicit memory, that your child won't explicitly remember their time during the neonatal care, but it does have an impact on their nervous system. So I think that is a really important point. I just wonder, with like me saying that, whether you can talk a little bit more about that work that you do with people about like maybe those pre-verbal experiences and how that works, if that feels okay.
Yeah, because all the pre-verbal work that I'm doing is with adults, and I
Yes.
see women, so it's with adult women. I've had people, even I might ask, tell me about like when your mom was pregnant with you, or do you know anything like where she was living, who she was living with, where she working, just anything that what was going on in her world at that time when she was pregnant with you. And then I
Mm.
might ask, do they know anything about their own birth and how that was?
Yeah.
You'd be
Mm-hmm.
surprised at what people have been told about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And the narratives they've created about it as a
yes,
result of,
yes,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The narratives, even little things. I mean, we're not trying to cause trauma or anything, but
Yeah.
like even stuff like you wanted to come into this world, like you came so fast,
Yeah.
like even
Yeah.
little things like that. But then
Mm.
just how they have then they took that story and they came up
Yeah.
with like they I'm not finding the words right now, but they then added their own twist on it and what that says about them.
Yes. Yeah. Completely, Matt. I did a really interesting podcast episode with some young people who were born premature, and they were talking about the narratives that have stuck around for them, which was really
Uh-huh.
interesting. But one of them was saying that what stuck around for them was just this one statement of, you weren't supposed to be here. And it was obviously not intended to be in that kind of way, but it was just taken in that I wasn't supposed to be here type feeling. And
Yeah.
she was saying that had stuck with her. So I guess that's that kind of thing of what sticks, the narratives that kind of stick around from within
Right.
that, right?
I mean, my mom, I'm one of five. My mom always said, none of you were planned, none of us were planned. And this is interesting. I just thought of this. So I'm a twin,
Mm-hmm.
and I recently shared on Instagram some of my own EMDR experience and how
Right.
I used to have really bad sleep at night. I would get so anxious. This is when I was single, an adult single. So I lived
Yeah.
alone. And the negative belief was like, I'm alone. I'm not okay alone, was like this
Yeah.
theme. And in the post, I shared how I was a twin, and someone DM'd me, another therapist who has twins, but she said it's very interesting. Her twin B, the second twin that was born, has
Mm.
a lot of sleep anxiety. And she read this study about how it's very common in twin B because there's just that lapse of time that their twin is out. Their
Oh,
twin is
wow.
born and they're left alone in the womb still. And I was just like, I'm twin B.
Oh, wow. Goodness me. Do you know what? I sent that post. I've got twin sisters. I'm also one of five. And I've got twin sisters, my little sisters. And twin B struggles with the same anxiety around sleep. So, yeah, that's
This
really, really
is really,
interesting.
I know. When she wrote me that, I was like, oh my God, what have I never thought of that before? But I was always saying in therapy, like to my EMDR therapist, this doesn't even make sense because I've literally never been alone. I was
Yeah.
literally in the room with my twin. We've always shared a bedroom growing up alone.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
like the logical thought.
completely. So there's part of it of, as an adult, as you're doing the processing, it might be that the past kind of comes into the session. It might be that you go in with more of a, I need to process the past in the session. It might be that as you're doing the processing, you just stay on the kind of the current struggle as well. But I guess it's, who is EMDR for? Who would find it beneficial?
Everyone.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. You, me, that. So when I say everyone, I'm sort of joking, but I'm really not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, definitely if you've had any birth trauma or birth at all,
Yeah.
definitely. It,
Completely. I
it's
think one of the biggest things I hear from people is, I get people who are 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and they
uh-huh.
say this statement of, the NICU experience just stays with you. It just changes you. The trauma just stays with
Hmm.
you. And I think that I always find that tricky, because I'm like, it doesn't have to. Yes, the experience
Yeah.
can change you. You've got
Yes.
matrescence going on through trauma. Of course, there's a shake in your belief system and all of that kind of stuff. But the
Right.
trauma doesn't have to stay. Right?
Right.
It doesn't have to keep repeating on you. You don't have to feel stuck in those
That's
experiences.
right. And EMDR does not erase memories. It will not
No.
erase any grief or anything like that or any memories. But the way I explain it, instead of thinking back to your birth experience and the NICU experience, instead of reliving it in an activating way, it's more like you can look back and you're looking at it instead of being in it.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
actually look back and you can talk about it without getting super activated or overwhelmed. Or maybe you can talk about it without having this overwhelming guilt
Hmm. Yeah.
or regret or any of those negative activating feelings that might have come up at first and been so big.
Yeah. Completely. The concept that time is a healer,
Mm.
right? That we often get. Tell me about
Yeah.
that. So tell me what comes up for you when people say that.
Oh, what does come up for me? I think two things. It's yes, time helps, and it doesn't. And it doesn't ever take away everything. Or doesn't it never takes away grief or sadness, or it doesn't make it go away. I can't go
Mm,
back in time and actually change what happened. So there's no time that's going to take that away.
yeah. Did you know that the NICU Space is more than just this podcast? We also run an online community created specifically for NICU parents, whether your baby is currently in neonatal care or your NICU experience happened months or even years ago. Inside the community, you'll find specialist guidance from professionals who understand NICU, resources and coping tools to help with the emotional impact, and most importantly, connection with other parents who really get it. For many parents, it becomes a place where they can finally talk about their NICU experience with people who understand without needing an explanation. If this sounds like something that would support you, you can find out more information in the show notes. Let's get back to the episode. I guess it makes me think of the adaptive information processing part, right? That's our brain is supposed to be able to process things that go on through our day, like you said, with the REM sleep. Like we process stuff,
Mhm.
but sometimes things are too big, they're too sticky, that they're kind of too much for our nervous system to process. And if we're told that time is a healer, but there is still stuff that feels stuck and too big to be able to process, then it's like we might need some help with those bits,
Yeah.
right?
I'm just thinking of my own experience.
Uh-huh.
My mom died 10 years ago. I think it's 10
Mhm.
years ago. And
Mhm.
at first I couldn't think about my mom without crying. I definitely couldn't talk about
Yeah.
her without crying. And then months passed and I remember I was traveling and I was on the plane and this woman beside me, I like said for the first time, my mom died. Like it came out of my mouth and I didn't cry.
Mhm.
And I remember
Mhm.
thinking like, wow, That was weird. I actually said like
Yeah.
the words and didn't cry.
Yeah.
And then more time passes and like you'll have more experiences like that. So that's in a way like where I think when people say time heals, like
Mm.
sure, some things might get easier. Yeah, I might be able to talk about some things or see one of her old shirts or wear one of her old shirts and I might have happy feelings instead of just like terrible grief, sadness. But now becoming like when I had my daughter, I
Mm.
mean, the grief of not having my
Yeah.
mom
Yeah.
hits you,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's
Completely.
always going to be things that can trigger, and that's when it's like time doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. I think that often a lot of people do the part after NICU where it's just get on with it. You are looking after a new baby.
Well, you're
Uh,
surviving.
you are absolutely, you are just getting through in whatever way you can. And
Hmm.
maybe even coming home, you've got ongoing medical needs, or just being a parent to a new baby in itself is exhausting, right? So there is often this delayed response to it of being like, I often see it around that 9 to 12 month mark, when around the first birthday, or it might be
Oh,
that
yeah.
people are then starting to think about having another baby. So
Yes.
it's like I'm surviving, and then it gets to a certain point and it's, oh crap, what have I been through? This feels like I need to pay attention to this now. I can't not. So I think it just does that kind of waves part, and it has different triggers at different points, I
Yes.
think.
Oh, it could be months later, it could be years later.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. If people are reaching out around the pregnancy mark, this is another kind of thing that I felt like it was important to debunk, because there can be evidence out there that it isn't safe to do EMDR when you are pregnant. And I just wondered if you had a response to that.
I'm pretty confident saying that is actually a myth.
Yeah.
It's not a immediate no, you can't do EMDR when you're pregnant.
Hmm.
I'm pregnant right now. I will do EMDR.
Hmm.
I've had clients I continue to do EMDR with that are pregnant. And we're doing it on maybe they had a traumatic birth experience and now they're pregnant and they're completely overwhelmed with anxiety because they know
Yeah.
they're going to have this baby in the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like EMDR, if we can help them, their nervous system relax, of course, why would we not do that? They're already living with this anxiety. I'm not making it
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, now when someone's pregnant, is that the time to maybe go back to some horrific traumatic experience when you were 3? No,
Hmm.
it's not the time right now. Let's just focus on the pregnancy.
Immediately. Yeah.
Let's focus on everything around this pregnancy and trying to help you feel calmer, more grounded, as
Yeah.
prepared as you can be for this birth.
Absolutely. I think one of the fears that people have about EMDR is the idea of going back. And of course, that makes sense, because
Mhm.
part of the PTSD is avoiding it, right? The
Yeah.
idea of having to go back to it can feel really scary. And I think what I get a lot is people saying, I don't want to open Pandora's box. I'm surviving. And if I open this now, what will happen to me? Do you ever have people with that same kind of fear? And what would you say to them if they came with that?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, now I would target that with
Hmm.
EMDR. So tell me how scared you are, 0 to 10, about talking about that and opening Pandora's box. And what would the
Yeah.
worst thing be? Like, I would cry and never stop. I would hate my mother because I would have to acknowledge X, Y, and Z, or I might remember some terrible thing that happened. And, there's all sorts of
Hmm.
fears about that. But it's like we can even target that. Also, you don't have to.
Hmm.
That's okay. You don't want to go back there? we don't have to go back there.
Mm-hmm. What do you
I
mean by that?
If you really do not want to touch on when I was 5 and my dad left and I never heard from him
Yeah.
again. If you just
Yeah.
don't want to, like, that exists in your life and that's obviously a big experience that impacted you, but you're just not ready to talk about it,
Yeah.
that is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
might,
kind of
I
just ring
might,
fence it a little bit.
yes, that's okay. I'm not going to push it, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I might talk to them as we get to know each other more. I might talk to them and explain. You might only experience like so much healing. Like eventually we're probably going to hit a wall,
Yeah.
but I mean, you have to respect like where people are at, and if they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I think it is just that being led by the client. And there may be parts that come up of being like, I'm worried that I'm going to open this box and I'm never going to be able to shut it. I'm going to cry forever. Or it might be you start doing the EMDR and they're like, I'm worried that I'm doing this wrong. But I think just knowing that they're parts, the protecting and all of that, and it's
Yes.
really normal for them to come up, right? And it might be that they need
So
work first,
normal.
right?
Yeah.
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 We might need to slow it down, and
Yeah.
we're still doing work and we're still doing EMDR even in the beginning phases.
Hmm. So talk to me about the beginning phases, because I know that you've recently been speaking quite a lot about that phase 2, the kind of resourcing part.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what that means. What should someone expect if they're going to see a EMDR therapist with the resourcing part?
So it's EMDR when you start. There's phase 1, which is like treatment planning, getting to know each other, coming up with a plan of what we're going to target for EMDR,
Yeah.
what you really want to focus on. And then phase 2 is resourcing or preparation. And we're doing a lot of what a lot of people think of as like coping skills, but we're like practicing. It's like we're practicing thinking of a trauma image for maybe 5 seconds, and then we're coming back to feeling grounded in the room. We're thinking about this bad memory or this like activation, and then we're coming back to a peaceful place. Like we're helping practice. It's called dual attention, like going back and forth.
Mhm.
Okay, I can think about that and not get totally overwhelmed, and I'm able to come back to grounded. It's like
Yeah.
we're helping build this flexibility or dual
Mhm.
attention.
Mhm.
And sometimes people only get to phase 2, and that's still good work.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's that ability to be able to, like we talk about, like that window of tolerance part,
Yes.
right? And being able to move into something that feels activating or slightly distressing, and then having the tools to be able to bring yourself there. And I think going back to what we were saying, when people worry about that, like Pandora's box and I'll never stop crying, I guess that's especially important for those people who have that fear of being like,
Yeah.
look, we can do it. We have evidence that we're able to go in and come back out, and you've got
Yeah.
the tools to be able to do that.
Yes. So I want to explain one little thing that my therapist told me. I'll never
Uh
forget it.
huh.
So imagine our window of tolerance of like a box, right? And of course, we bounce out of it, and you can either bounce up to anxiety, hypervigilance, or you can bounce down to hypoarousal, like depression, freeze. We're all going to bounce out of our window. A lot of therapies are teaching you how to handle it when you're outside your box and how to get back in faster.
Hmm.
EMDR therapy actually expands our window. So, like,
Hmm.
imagine your window is actually getting bigger. So now I have a lot more room that I'm bouncing in. So I'm actually going to bounce out less frequently because now I'm like expanding the window.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
loved that visual.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So it's a building I don't really like the word resilience, but building like a resilience as well, right? Which
Yeah.
is,
Like literally makes your window bigger.
yeah,
Instead
yeah,
of just teaching
completely.
you how to survive when you're outside of it, or like
Mm,
how to get back in quicker,
yes.
it's
Yeah.
actually like expanding the window. I was like, wow,
And
I like that
yeah,
idea.
I really like that idea as well. And when I'm talking to people about EMDR generally as well, I think just bringing in what it's actually doing to your brain, what it's actually doing to your nervous system when you're doing it, I think that's really important as well. So thinking about how those memories are moving from amygdala, that kind of emotional place, into that long-term memory storage. Like, again, is that something that you could talk to so people can understand what is actually happening for
Yeah.
them?
Well, this is where I get imposter syndrome when it comes to the brain and all those
Uh-huh.
fancy words and the science
Uh-huh.
behind it. Science jargon too much.
Yeah.
I do say it's like the bilateral stimulation is opening up both sides of our brain and it's helping them
Yeah.
reconsolidate. Or I
Yes.
think of our brain as a filing cabinet. And
Yes.
before EMDR, it's like there's papers all over the place, there's stuff in the wrong area. Just a mess. And
Yeah.
EMDR helps to take that piece of paper that has that 6-year-old memory when your best friend didn't make a soccer team and they were crying and you were helpless.
Yeah.
It helps
Yeah.
to put it in the folder like you were sick at 6, it's not your fault. And
Yeah.
it puts all the papers where they belong. It shuts the filing cabinet. It's all nice and in place and
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
belongs.
Completely that. And I think like when it doesn't have to be in this kind of sciencey language in terms of the way that people experience that is you have a moment where you experience like a trigger or you have a repeated stuck feeling that comes up
Mhm.
and it's like, it's there, it's visceral, the emotions are switched on. And then after doing the EMDR process, that isn't happening so much anymore. It feels like it's something that happened in the past. We're not getting that same body-based, emotion-based response. And that's
Right.
because of it being stored in that long-term memory storage. It's something that happened in the past. And I guess
Yeah.
that's what we mean when we're saying processing,
Right.
right? I think
It's
people
like
can get
it's
confused about what that
properly
word
put
means.
away, like where it
Yeah.
belongs.
Yeah. One thing that I did want to just also quickly talk about is when you said that you primarily work with women, but in a traumatic experience, it can
Mhm.
also be other people who are not like the direct person
I
who's impacted
actually,
by it, right?
one of my mental notes is I wanted to talk about the partners too and not forget about them because it can be
Uh-huh.
very traumatic for them to witness even to witness all of this and experience it all and
Mm,
they hold trauma too. And a lot of
yeah.
times they are sort of forgotten about because they're like not the focus. They're not going to the doctor's
Yes.
appointment follow-ups and but yeah, EMDR could be great for the partners.
Yeah, completely. I think partners and yeah, for sure. And I also think staff who are there witnessing all of this trauma constantly,
Well,
like it can be for anyone,
definitely
right?
staff. Oh yeah, staff or pe- parents or anyone that came
Uh-huh.
to visit in the hospital or was like, I mean, even like friends,
Yeah.
all of it. Anyone who is in relation and had an experience with it. But I mean, definitely
Yeah.
the medical staff. And really, EMDR was like first sort of made for first responders. It was
Yes.
studied on veterans.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. I think just validating the fact that trauma can have those ripple effects and it can impact so many people. I've had parents of the parents that I'm working with, so like grandparents coming in
Yeah.
and having EMDR processing. I think that they can feel like, well, it's not mine, it's not my trauma, but I am traumatized by it. So I think like that trauma, those experiences can have a ripple effect on other people as well. So I think that that's really important to say.
Yeah.
If people are looking for an EMDR therapist,
Mhm.
are there any kind of questions that they should ask? Is there anything that feels like a bit of a red flag? Is there anything that people should be aware of when looking for an EMDR therapist?
So I always send people to EMDRIA, EMDRIA.org,
Mm-hmm.
and you can
Mm-hmm.
find a therapist. That's a good search database. But
Yeah.
I do like to explain, I mean, there is a difference of someone just saying they're an EMDR therapist or EMDR trained versus a certified EMDR therapist.
Mm-hmm.
If there can be wonderful EMDR trained therapists, but if someone is certified fully in EMDR, you know for a fact, like done, it's been 2 years or so since they've had basic training. They've had so many consultation hours. They've had to
Mm-hmm.
do extra trainings. So you can be assured that they have that experience. You can also,
Yeah.
you can interview your therapist. Just like you can ask them questions like, how long have you done EMDR therapy? How often do you do EMDR with your clients?
Yeah.
Is it their main modality?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a
Yeah.
red flag to
Completely.
me with therapists. If like you say you're EMDR, you say you're DBT, you say you're EFT, okay. What are you really specialize in? What are you really doing then?
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
can't be, what's that saying? Like, you can't be an expert in everything.
Completely. And I guess we talk about working integratively. So like I might go down the ACT route. I might go down the EMDR route a little bit more, and it's about the person in the room and what they're bringing and what they need. But in terms of specialisms within each of those modalities, like I haven't done like huge training on like the ACT piece, or so it's important, I guess, to be able to be interviewing, asking whether people have had the experience maybe with the birth trauma or the neonatal side of stuff as well.
Hmm.
I went to a therapist, an EMDR therapist, with the idea of processing the NICU related stuff. And I spent the first session telling them about the NICU and having to explain some of those terms. And I was like, I don't feel like this is going to work. And then that's
Vibe. Yeah.
uncomfortable because you want to just, I don't know, I want it to just be like, yeah, you're great. But it's really hard to be like, no, I don't feel like we're a good fit, but you can,
Right. Yeah, you
you know?
totally can. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of perinatal EMDR therapists.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Completely. So it's about finding someone who feels like the right fit, because that relationship element.
It's the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
there's not the rapport, it's never going to work, no matter how good at EMDR they are.
No, completely. And that's about that safety. It's about being able to feel like you can be vulnerable. And while you're doing the processing, that if an emotion comes out, it feels okay to be able to experience that in the room with the other
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. And the last thing I'll say is EMDR can be done virtually.
Hmm.
Of course, people can have different opinions about it for themselves, but if you think you want to do virtual therapy, it's definitely possible to do EMDR virtually too.
Yeah, I do all of my EMDR virtually. So I only see people online. So I use either tapping side to side
Uh-huh.
that people use, or we can use a little dot that moves across the screen with
Right.
looking at it in that kind of way. But there's definitely ways around it. And
Yes.
like I think the research was like it's as effective as the face to face,
Totally.
but obviously personal preference with that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So if someone was listening to this and they've been contemplating EMDR, maybe they haven't started it yet, but they're a little bit worried about it, what would you say to them?
I would say just know that even if you find an EMDR therapist, they're still gonna just talk to you too. It's not You're gonna have a lot of quote normal talk therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And so don't think that if you find an EMDR therapist, you're like signing up to like only do this like weird new therapy called EMDR.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's lots of just talking and getting to know each other, and
Hmm.
it I mean, a lot of my, like, EMDR clients, sometimes they'll come in and they're just like, I can't do EMDR
Not
today. Like,
today.
let's just have a talk session. And I'm like, that sounds lovely. Let's just do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Completely that. I think so. What's so important with the EMDR process is that there is consent, right? There's
Yes.
consent to go there. It's paced at the level, like if you said, attuned, right? So it should never feel like you're being rushed into something or going somewhere that you don't want to go, or if it doesn't feel okay, that you feel okay to say that it doesn't feel okay, you
Yeah.
know? And that is, I think, as important, particularly if you've been through something like birth trauma or a NICU where that consent might have been an issue. I think having that space to be able to go backwards and forwards, attune,
Yeah.
all of that is really important. Yeah,
Yes.
completely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really,
Thank
really appreciate
you.
you
It
taking
was
your
so
time to come and talk
nice.
to us. Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you. And I'll talk to you after this because I actually think that you might be my twin on the other side of the pond because we've got so much in common. But it's really nice to connect with you, and I hope everything goes okay with your pregnancy and your baby.
Yes, I didn't even mention that. I'm like 27 weeks.
Yeah, I know. And I hope it all goes okay. If people want to
Thank
find
you.
you, where's the best place that they can do that?
My website is emdrwithcarly.com, or I'm on Instagram a lot, EMDR with
Mhm.
Carly.
Perfect. And I would encourage people to go and follow you because I do think that you've got a way of being able to explain things in that kind of short form content, particularly, that
Thank
really
you.
resonates. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the NICU Space podcast by Miracle Moon. If this episode resonated with you, please know that support is available and you are always welcome in our community. If you found this episode helpful, one of the best ways to support the podcast is by sharing it, leaving a rating, or subscribing. It helps these conversations reach more NICU parents who really need them. You can also find us on Instagram and across social media at Miracle Moon UK, or explore more resources at miraclemoon.co.uk. Wherever you are in your NICU story, please remember this: you are not alone.